Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to be looking at something so incredibly common, so totally everyday, that we honestly just take it for granted. We usually think of water as just the backdrop of biology, right? Kind of like the stage where the real action happens. But what if I told you that water isn't just the stage? Actually, it's the active, driving protagonist behind literally all life on Earth.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the stakes here are actually incredibly personal. Just look at these numbers. This isn't abstract science at all. This is a literal breakdown of you. Between 70 and 95% of the mass of a living cell is just water. Your human body as a whole is nearly 60% water. If you were to remove it, life simply wouldn't exist, period. But why? What makes this super simple molecule, just 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, so utterly indispensable?
Well, to answer that, we're going to unpack water's 5 biological superpowers. We'll start with the secrets of hydrogen bonds, then explore how it acts as the universal biological solvent, how it's a master of temperature control, the ways it literally defies standard physics with density and cohesion, and finally, how it acts as an active chemical reagent. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Secrets of hydrogen bonds. The fundamental reason behind water's unusual physical properties. So our first superpower covers the absolute foundation of water's abilities. If we zoom all the way down to the microscopic level, we see that water is what we call a polar molecule. This polarity basically means there's an uneven distribution of charge. The oxygen atom kind of hogs the electrons, which gives it a slight negative charge, while the 2 little hydrogen atoms are left with a slight positive charge. And because opposites attract, right, the positive hydrogen of one water molecule is drawn to the negative oxygen of another. These are hydrogen bonds. Individually, sure, they're quite weak, but collectively, they create this massive, incredibly powerful network of intermolecular attraction.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer scale of what those tiny bonds accomplish. Let's play a quick game of what if. Take hydrogen sulfide, or H2S. It's incredibly similar in structure to H2O, but because it doesn't form these hydrogen bonds, it behaves as a toxic gas at room temperature. If water didn't have hydrogen bonds, it would act the exact same way. No joke, our oceans wouldn't exist. They'd just be giant clouds of gas. Hydrogen bonding is literally what locks water into a liquid state under normal Earth conditions, allowing biological molecules to dissolve, move around, and actually interact with each other.
The following are critical points regarding this heading. Please examine them closely as they are highly significant from an examination perspective.
Moving on to Section 2, the universal biological solvent, dissolving and transporting life's essential materials. Because water stays liquid, and because of that unique polarity we were just talking about, it is uniquely equipped to act as the ultimate biological highway system. The slightly negative oxygen sides surround positive ions, while the positive hydrogen sides surround negative ions, basically pulling substances apart and suspending them. And notice how this operates. In animals, like us, this exact transport is happening in your blood plasma right now. Water's carrying glucose, amino acids, and hormones around, while flushing away waste like urea. And over in plants, it's doing the exact same heavy lifting, moving dissolved minerals up the xylem and sweeping sugars right through the phloem. But you know what? Water's inability to dissolve everything is actually just as important. Take a look at the contrast between polar and nonpolar substances. We all know the old saying, oil and water don't mix. Nonpolar substances, like lipids, don't dissolve in water. Instead, water sort of pushes them together, forcing them to interact with each other. And this isn't a flaw. This hydrophobic or water-fearing interaction is exactly what forces lipid molecules to group together and form those incredibly stable cell membranes that encapsulate every single cell in your body. Okay, let's transition to Section 3, Master of Temperature Control, protecting biological systems from extreme heat and cold. Water is basically a biological thermostat. It has what physicists call a high specific heat capacity. You can kind of imagine this as a miniature action sequence. Step 1, intense heat energy hits the water. But instead of the water immediately heating up, Step 2 kicks in. That energy is completely absorbed by those stubborn hydrogen bonds we talked about earlier. Those bonds have to be broken first. It's only in Step 3 that the molecules actually start moving faster, which causes the temperature to rise. This means water heats up and cools down incredibly slowly.
So the crucial point is that this slow temperature change is quite literally a lifesaver. Your body is packed full of temperature-sensitive enzymes that manage your metabolic rates and biochemical reactions. If the water inside your cells heated up rapidly every single time you stepped out into the sun, those enzymes would denature. Basically, they'd lose their shape and completely fail. Water absorbs that thermal shock, keeping your internal environment perfectly safe and stable.
And when things do get a little too hot, water deploys another awesome trick, a high latent heat of vaporization. It takes a massive amount of energy to turn liquid water into a gas. Think about that cooling sensation of sweat on your skin after a really hard workout. When that sweat evaporates, it's taking a huge chunk of heat energy away with it, cooling you down super efficiently while you lose relatively little actual liquid. Mammals do this by sweating or panting, and plants do the exact same thing through a process called transpiration to keep their leaves from just baking in the midday sun.
All right, moving right into section 4, defying physics, density and cohesion, floating ice, and climbing water columns.
Here is where we see water actually defy normal physics, 4 degrees Celsius. This is an absolutely critical, magic number in biology. For almost every other substance in the universe, as it gets colder, it gets denser, right? Like the solid version is heavier than the liquid version. But water reaches its absolute maximum density at precisely 4 degrees Celsius. As it cools below that and starts freezing into ice, the hydrogen bonds lock the molecules into this rigid, open lattice structure. It actually expands. It becomes less dense. And this brilliantly illustrates one of nature's greatest survival mechanisms. Because ice is less dense, it floats. Just imagine the terrifying what-if scenario if water behaved normally here. Lakes and oceans would freeze solid from the bottom up in winter, literally killing all marine life. But instead, ice forms on the surface, which creates this amazing protective insulating layer. The water down below remains liquid, allowing fish and whole aquatic ecosystems to easily survive the harshest winters.
Here are the core details regarding this topic. Review them intently for they are deemed crucial for your finals.
Water's physical quirks don't stop there. Because water molecules are so insanely attracted to each other, they exhibit extreme cohesion. This cohesion is so strong it allows water to be pulled in continuous, unbroken columns hundreds of feet up the trunks of tall trees, delivering vital minerals to the highest leaves. And if we shift our scale all the way down from a massive tree to a tiny pond, that exact same strong cohesion creates a super tight film at the surface, known as surface tension. It's so resistant that insects, like pond skaters, can literally walk right across a droplet without sinking. No way, right?
Finally, we arrive at section 5, water as an active reagent, participating actively in metabolic reactions.
Up to now, we've mostly talked about water as a container, a transporter, or a protector. But water isn't just a passive bystander. It actively rolls up its sleeves. Let's see how this builds our energy systems from the ground up. Take a look at hydrolysis. When you eat food, your body needs to break down massive molecules like proteins and starches into smaller amino acids and glucose. It literally uses water molecules as a chemical blade to cut those large molecules apart. Without water, digestion just wouldn't happen. On the flip side, in photosynthesis, plants use sunlight to physically split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen builds glucose, and the oxygen is released right back into the atmosphere, providing the very air that you and I are breathing right now.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a question. From acting as an insulating shield over winter lakes, to dissolving the nutrients in our blood, to providing the oxygen in our lungs, everything we've discussed today stems from a tiny, slight uneven charge between an oxygen atom and 2 hydrogen atoms. If nearly all life depends on a single molecule's slight uneven charge, just how delicate is the balance of life? It's a pretty fascinating thought to keep with you the next time you pour yourself a simple glass of water. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep asking questions.
Key terms for this topic are presented on the screen, classified according to different exam boards. These terms require dedicated focus during preparations as they are essential and should never be ignored. In addition, past paper analysis is included for each board and paper type. Be sure to review this carefully as it will greatly contribute to improving your preparations. Also, make an effort to understand the meaning and application of each keyword rather than memorizing them on their own. Regular practice using these terms in past paper questions will significantly enhance your accuracy and overall exam performance.
Please subscribe our channel to get more educational videos. Thank you.